Hello, everybody, and welcome to Rest Week. Now, in all seriousness, it is Rest Week. Rest Week is a lot more than just me catching in extra hours of sleep because I'm going to be decreasing my training. Last week, we did just about 14 hours of training in total. The intensity was probably at about 25 total percent of my volume, was at some kind of intensity that was not just strictly aerobic. And in the following week, we will be doing some training that is a lot more anaerobic. We're going to be adding a lot more tempo, a lot more effort, and my hours will go back up. So this week is all strictly about rest, recovery, and make sure my body is adapting well to the training that I am going through currently. So now we're going to go ahead and take a moment and jump into the whys and the hows of the rest week. It is a rest week. So I just wanted to kind of jump into what a rest week looks like and why it's important, the ins and outs, and kind of like the science of it. To start with, how is it structured? So for myself, it's every 3 to 4 weeks. It's just kind of built into my training plan that I reduce volume by about 40 to 50%. And the main reason this is important is to help avoid injury and burnout. So if you just go high volume all the time, which I absolutely love to do that, this is why I have such a love-hate relationship with these rest weeks. I love high volume training, but if I do too much of it for too long, I am increasing my risk of injury tenfold, and I'm also really at risk for just burning out and losing interest in the sport as a whole. Now, there are some specific advantages of this, and that means that one, we're going to heal up, and we're actually going to absorb all that training we've been doing. We're going to feel a lot better for it on the other side. And then in addition, it's like in a week, when I come on the other side of this training or this rest week or deloading week, I'm going to feel refreshed again. I'm going to be really ready for that next 3 weeks. So the previous 3.5, 4 weeks have been high volume, right? The intensity's been there in 1 or 2 days a week. My long rides have maybe had just a touch of intensity in them. But now going forward, every long ride is going to have multiple intervals at race effort. Every long run is going to have race effort pacing within that run. It's not going to be just easy zone 2, let's turn the legs over. So right now we're resting, recovering, and we're getting ready for this next week. There's quite a bit of science behind what to do and the importance of a recovery week. So I just really want to break this down for you guys. So there's 3 crazy important steps just to make this simple in regards to recovery in general. 1 is sleep, 2 is going to be nutrition, and 3 is going to be your movement. Okay, so let's just go ahead and start off with the super simple one, and that is sleep. It's easier said than done, but it is recommended by the Mayo Clinic and their research studies that adult athletes, get between 7 and 8.5 hours of sleep depending on their current training load. Now personally, I track my sleep through my Garmin Fenix. There's other devices out there including the Oura Ring and the Whoop, which are probably a little bit more accurate. But the end game goal is to track what's called HRV, which is heart rate variability. Heart rate variability measures the amount of time between heartbeats, and the higher that amount is, which probably ultimately means the lower the heart rate at rest, means that you're more rested and more recovered. So my Garmin is constantly tracking my HRV. Ideal for me is between 62 and 80 milliseconds. Right now I'm sitting at 72. And mine just kind of gives me a nice range, and it pretty much tells me, are you ready to train or not, or do you really need to start thinking about that recovery week and taking it a little bit more seriously. It also helps me get a good idea of how well am I truly absorbing the training. Next up is nutrition. So our body needs a healthy balance of 3 essential things: protein, carbs, and fats. We're just going to simplify it to those 3 right now. We could do an entire lecture series on nutrition, okay? So the first thing here is proteins. So whenever we have muscle breakdown, all these little muscle tears that we're creating through our exercise, through our fitness, we are ultimately, we're gonna need to repair that. So proteins, after we digest them, they break down into what are called amino acids. And what these amino acids allow to do is allow for that repair of that muscle tissue itself, so that way it is stronger going forward. So muscle repair is because of protein. The recommended amount is at least 1 per kilo, if not 1 per pound, which doubles. It's very difficult to get that much protein in, but it also depends on if you're weightlifting or in all that stuff. Endurance athlete is usually about 1.5 grams of protein per kilo of weight. Next up is carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are every endurance athlete's best friend, right? There's three times we should be fueling with carbohydrates as endurance athletes. There's pre-training, intra-training, and after training. So literally just all the time. There's two different kinds of carbs: simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates. Simple carbs are things like sugar, like my Tailwind, for example, is a simple carbohydrate. It is straight up sugar, right, with flavoring in it and some citrate. And what it really does is it's fast absorbing and fast emptying. So it goes into my stomach, it's quickly absorbed, the energy's there immediately. But it also causes a spike in my blood sugar. So I don't want to be just walking around drinking Tailwind. So outside of training, you want to do what are called complex carbohydrates. Complex carbohydrates are things such as sweet potatoes, rice, whole grain bread, sourdough, things like that. And the reason is those also include fiber, which means that they're being more slowly digested, not a huge increase in your blood sugar, which means no insulin spike as well. And we're replenishing all that muscle tissue with glycogen for future usage. So whatever's not being immediately used is being stored in the muscle for glycogen for future usage. Dietary fat gets a horrible rep, right? Everyone says, oh, I need to decrease my fat to lose weight. That is wrong. So healthy dietary fats include things like omega oils that you can get from like fish. My big thing is peanut butter and nuts, olive oils, things like that. We want to stay away from like certain seed oils, of course. That's a whole controversial topic. But ultimately, we want to get these in because it helps with two things. One is just consistent energy levels. Fat is a calorie that results in higher energy. It's just period. There's no arguing it. And the second thing is it helps with hormone regulation. It helps with it's the basis of steroidal hormones such as estrogen and testosterone. So if you completely remove dietary fat, you're actually going to affect your T levels, such as like if you watch a bunch of bodybuilder videos, they'll talk about, man, my testosterone's dropping when I start cutting super hard. And a big part of that is because you've cut out that dietary fat. So the last thing we're going to talk about is just active recovery, right? So that's just movement. Okay, so for me, that is walks with my dogs, that is maybe going for a lighter run with my wife than what my normal running pace would be on maybe a more soft surface. When we reduce that volume, like I said, we're reducing it 40 to 50 total %. And it's because we want to maintain some level of fitness through this week, right? We're not trying to go backwards. We're trying to prepare ourselves to move forwards in our fitness gains. So what we're doing here is the blood flow is moving throughout our body, and what it's doing is getting rid of all that lactic acid, it's getting rid of all those byproducts of that muscle breakdown, and it's introducing all those new nutrients that we just talked about, the fats, the proteins, the glycogen, all back into the muscle tissue to repair, replenish, and honestly just be better going forward. So if we don't stay active during this recovery week, that's why I don't like the word recovery week. We're reloading, we're re-preparing ourselves, we're not just taking a full week off. So we're gonna try something a little different. Got the GoPro harness, and we're gonna head out on the old road bike and just put in a few miles. But pretty stoked to give kind of a POV view of what it's like to ride around here. Yeah, nothing to it. Let's get to it. So while we're going ahead and watching this footage of me riding my road bike around White Rock, let's go through my week. So I did a recovery swim to start with, and we had a swim later on in the week. Both kept under 2K, kept the pace nice and easy, relaxed shoulders. I did have a longish ride. It was only an hour and 30 minutes, kept it pretty easy, averaging 175 watts. As you can see, my power output's not as smooth as I would have liked it to be coming off 3 days of work. Did manage to keep my heart rate in the low 130s though, and still burned just over 900 calories. Had to make sure I refueled effectively after that ride, since it was actually my last ride of the week. So next up we have the ride that we're actually currently on the screen, which was a little over 20 miles going around White Rock. It was a horrendously windy day. Riding to the south felt like riding into a brick wall. A little harder to stay aero on this old bike, but still kept my heart rate in the 130s. Then we had my only tempo run of the week. It was 1 minute on, 1 minute off, lower zone 4, so it came out to like a 7:15 average, or 7:12, excuse me, just over 5 miles. And then I did do a long run this week. I ran this with Tessa. We did 8 miles, kept it zone 2, conversational pace, just listen to a podcast and relax. So as you guys can see, this week's training volume has completely dropped from last week. Last week I did 14 hours, this week was a total of 7 hours. It was super important to allow my body to recover this week, to make sure that in the following block that I feel refreshed, rested, recovered, whatever word you want to use for it, and that we're just ready to go. Alright guys, so let's take an opportunity to go through some of my favorite recovery tools. So to start with, the Hypervolt. So this is the original Gen 1. I bought this in 2019 for like $250. It's kind of a hefty price tag. Yes, I know you want your camera time, don't you? I got this Hypervolt, came with a bunch of different attachments. It has this one, a soft one, a prong one, and a little bullet looking one to really get into tight spots. Super great, only have to charge it about every other month. Use it all the time. Alright, so right here, this is the Reathlete ARC Pro. They are leg compression boots. These are awesome passive recovery tool. My favorite thing about it is I put them on, I set my settings that I want to have, my areas, and I will sit here and watch TV, read my Kindle, work on something for work. And meanwhile, what it does is it's applying compression. It's not really like massaging, but they're kind of a cheaper version of the Normatec boots. These retail go for about $250. These were a Christmas present, and I've had these for 2 years now. There's 3 chambers. There's like a foot, calf, and a quad hamstring area. You can either do individual, you can do multiple, or you can do all. So lastly, these are my cane recovery shoes. I wear these all the time. Now, they pretty much are like a fancier Croc. They feel more like a tennis shoe, but a couple of reasons why I love these. One, we live on a 3rd floor of an apartment, and I'm constantly taking the dogs outside, so just having something I can slip on without socks and comfortably walk down 3 flights of stairs in is super important to me. 2, they also have some arch support, and they're not like super cushiony, but they fit really, really well. So I'm able to actually walk around in these for pretty long distances very comfortably. So like when I go to the pool or so forth, I really like just being the fact that I can slide these on. I literally will also just go like shoot some hoops in these when I'm at the Y. So that's just kind of the level of comfort that they are at. They do run a little bit on the pricier side for what they are. They're like $80, lots of colorway options. These are like the USA version. They're like red, white, and blue speckled. I've had these since November. They're holding up very strong. They're pretty dirty because, like I said, wear them all the time. They're also really great because like when I go cycling, different locations, you know, you take off and on off your cycling shoes. I'm really not a big slides guy. These just really have filled in that need for me. And I do feel like the fact that they fit looser, they're not like putting any pressure on your foot whatsoever, has helped with some of the minor aches and pains. And like the reality is, with cycling and running and all the things, you do get some minor foot swelling, and it's perfectly natural, and these just really help kind of combat some of those issues. So thank you guys for watching this video. I've been having a really good time taking you guys along with me on this sub 5 hour journey. Rest week is now officially over, which means this next week volume and intensity are going to go way up. Really excited to show you guys what that looks like. Next week's deep dive topic is going to be my running gear. It's going to be my favorite running gear, things that I've tried and didn't like as well. Go ahead and make sure you like and subscribe this video to see future videos. Follow me on Instagram at @triathletenurse for updated content. I post a lot of my training there daily. And if you didn't watch week 1's video, I'll have it posted at the very end. But thanks guys for watching. We'll see you next week.